everyone to Community Board 2, as is a custom with our process. Since we are now in a virtual environment, this meeting is being recorded. To follow along in our agenda, hopefully everyone has a copy. I am Lenny Singletary. Thanks to the board members of Community Board 2, I serve as chair. Our vice chairs are Mr. Leonard Jordan and Ms. Barbara Zala-Gringer. Our secretary is Jessica Thurston. And as we proceed with the agenda, I ask that each chair introduce themselves and also introduce their respective co-chairs. So welcome to Community Board 2. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? Do we need to make any modifications or any changes? Seeing or hearing none, we'll proceed with the agenda as proposed. We'll adopt tonight's agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of our meeting from December 2022? Are there any noted comments or corrections? Great. I ask that if you have any subsequent changes, please direct them to the board office and we'll make the final changes for our records. And with that, we'll adopt the minutes of December 2022. We'll start with agenda item. We'll continue with agenda item number 4, Chairperson's report. Let me start by saying, I think this is the last week you can do this, but Happy New Year. I'm glad that everyone has been able to make it this far. I wish everyone a successful, however you define success, 2023. This is a year that could be very important for individuals, but I think it's a great time to be a Brooklynite, particularly when you do the kind of civic work that we're doing by being members of the community board in partnership with our legislators and our elected officials. And I see some of them are representing themselves tonight, which is always fantastic. But, you know, it's a special time for Brooklyn when it comes to leadership at all levels of government. And so we should be, you know, continue to be proud to be Brooklynites, but continue to take advantage of the resources that are unique to our borough. So with the chairperson's report, let me mention a few things. One, I want to say thank you to all of the board members who have and continue to volunteer to serve on many of the grassroots councils and stakeholder organizations that community board has a seat on as part of their bylaws. As I've communicated to a few, the board office and I hope to make that your request satisfied sometime this month. We have a few more things that we're trying to go through. For those of you who are contemplating and still on the fence about whether or not you want to represent Community Board 2 on a stakeholder group, my advice to you is get in the game. Don't be timid, just jump in, get in the game. And then I remind everyone that, you know, if you do get selected to represent Community Board 2, the simple ask is that you create a report. It could be as short as a paragraph, ideally no longer than 2 pages. We just want the succinct material points of the meetings that you're partaking in. We'll keep them in the board office, and then we'll find a way to have them reported out either through the chairperson's report, or when things get a little settled, we go back to a district manager's report. But, you know, your representation and engagement is key because, one, I'd like to make sure that we fill every seat that CB2 has an opportunity to partake in. I think that's huge to show that we're more than just having the community come to us, but to also show that we want to be a part and go to the community. I think it's important to do that. The next thing I want to mention is I've had the opportunity to take part in several meetings with our city partners. Recently, I took part in a discussion with MTA on some of the bus rerouting plans or the redesign of the bus maps for Brooklyn. The meeting I took a part in was with specifically Flatbush and the impact it will have on the B41 bus. So there's a lot of proposed changes there. I'm not sure that everything that's been thrown against the wall is going to stick, so to speak. But I will say I like the engagement and I like the fact that the agencies are looking for community feedback. I also took part in at the invitation of Councilmember Hudson a crime violence, I'm sorry, I should really just categorize it as a public safety task force, kind of an ad hoc group, where we can look to quell some of the crime that is taking place within the district. I'm proud to say that it's not rampant, but it does exist. And ways that we can work collaboratively with the community from a prevention perspective. Maybe find a way that we can intervene for some of our younger constituents so that they don't see that as an alternative to satisfy some gaps or desires that they may have within their day-to-day livelihood. So I like the fact that that's really been proactive. Taya and I continue to engage with the council member on making sure that we have equity investment in green space and park space. And so I will say that the council member's office has been supportive, and Taya has been really diligent about doing that as well. So it's always a great thing. Several meetings on the BQE and what that monstrosity may possibly look like, yet to be determined, but it's a big project. And then last but not least, being part of the vision, working with city planning and the representatives from land use division of the city council on what reimagining Atlantic Avenue could look like, right? So there's a lot of things happening within the district of CB2. It's a lot of things that are requiring a collaboration with many agencies and partners, but from my perspective, an exciting time to be a part of CB2. And I would imagine for those of you who had the opportunity to join the State of the Borough address last night by our borough president, even more ideas, more opportunities for us to be a part of. So again, for me, it's an exciting time to be a part of CB2, but an exciting time to be in Brooklyn. One public service reminder is that if your membership to the community board is up, it is in your best interest, if you want to continue to serve in the seat that you sit in now, that you reapply. It is very important that you reapply. What I will say is the process has evolved now that it is conducive for just online. So if you just go online and fill out the application, you'll be able to reapply for the community board. Taya, I would ask that if you would be so kind to send out another reminder to all board members, letting them know when their term is up. And if their term is currently up, let's just send out another reminder so that people don't make the mistake of either not knowing or being so busy that they're unaware that the time to apply has run out. So thank you, Taya, for that thumbs up. I appreciate that. So clearly a lot going on. I know we're starting the new year, but no dull moment. It's a lot of things that we're doing. And I'm happy to have Taya as a partner as we continue with this process. And I'm happy to have the support and the engagement of each of you as members. And that meaning members of the community board, members of the community, and members of our partners as elected officials and representatives from agencies. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to stop there and conclude my chairperson's report there. I'm going to move on. As you recall, we tried to move the agenda around. We're playing with some things, but we think we found a good cadence with moving the agenda around so that elected officials and dignitaries could participate in our meeting. In some cases, they have conflicts. And so we didn't want to create that continued burden on the electeds. We appreciate when they show. And so with that, I wanted to move things around so we could have the elected officials speak earlier in the agenda. And as I look through the screens, we have our very own state representative from the 25th, our very own Jabari Brisport. Senator Brisport is here in person. And so while he's always represented with great staff and colleagues, we have him in person. And so I'm hoping, Senator, are you in Albany or in Brooklyn?
I'm in Brooklyn tonight, Mr. Chair.
All right. I was hoping you had that sweater on because it was cold in Albany, but I'm glad you're here. It's a great sweater. Looked like you had a hard day, so loosen up the tie and the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really appreciate you having me. And hello, Community Board 2. Happy New Year. You all look great. Hope it was a restful holiday. I'm going to share my screen and go over a few quick things. Okay. So sorry about that. I thought I had it all teed up. First things first, discretionary funding. We have money, state funding for nonprofits. It's given on a reimbursement basis. If you are not already on my office's listserv to find out more information about it, never fear, I am here, and you can go to the link you see on your screen. And for those who might be calling in, it's bit.ly/SD25 funding. And you can go there to apply for discretionary funding for your nonprofit. Or nonprofit that you know of from my office. Speaking of money, I want to tell you about the Tax the Rich campaign. For those who do not know, New York is actually #1 in the United States for income inequality, meaning in our state, the gap between rich and poor is the widest in the entire country. We have over 100 billionaires in our state who do not pay their fair share of taxes. And every single year in the state budget, we get a chance to look at the tax code again. And there is a statewide movement to raise taxes on the rich to make them pay their fair share and fund social programs, social infrastructure. You can see some on the screen: free buses, more affordable housing, universal free childcare, and so much more. So if that is interesting to you and you want to fight with us, it's a statewide movement. You can go to the link you see on your screen. Again, if you are calling in, it's taxtherichy.com. That's taxtherichy.com. And last but not least, not a money thing, but this is about the top court in New York State, the Court of Appeals. The governor has nominated a justice known as Hector LaSalle, who is a conservative judge who has been a part of decisions in the past that have made it harder for women to obtain abortions and harder for unions to organize. I am one of 14 senators that have come out against his nomination, thinking he would take New York State's highest court and our state in general in the wrong direction, in addition to many reproductive rights groups and many labor organizations which have come out against him. If you would also like to voice your concerns to the governor and your elected officials, you can go to the link you see on your screen. And for those who are calling in, it's thecourtnydeserves.com. That's thecourtnydeserves.com. I'm skipping that. And this is just contact information for my office. For those who are calling in, the phone number for my office is 718-643-6140. You can reach me directly through my email. It's brisport@nysenate.gov. And then there are a few more emails, but you can, if you're just calling in, you can just email brisport@nysenate.gov. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate the update. And I like the fact that you give a presentation that's easy for everybody to kind of grasp and follow along. Not that everyone gives a bad presentation if you don't have a presentation. Don't get that wrong, but it's nice. It's a nice touch. Senator, as is our custom, when we have principals as part of the meeting in person, we ask if you would mind staying and to take on 3 questions from the board members. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Sure. So board members, any 3 board members, or the first 3 board members, I'll say, who have any questions for the senator, please feel free to raise your hand digitally, and we will give you a chance to ask a question. If not, that's fine as well, but I just wanted to make sure we followed our protocol. Senator, you're off to a great start. We're going to let you off the hook. And if you have any other conflicts, any other meetings, you can get to them on time. And again, thank you for participating. As you know, you always have a seat here at Community Board 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Community Board 2.
Thank you. Take care. I see, if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking through the screens. I think I see Joanne Simon. Joanne?
Yes, you do.
Hi, Joanne. How are you?
I'm fine. And how are you? Happy New Year.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, I do not have a screen to share. I mean, I have a screen, but sharing it would not be of any interest to anybody. So I just wanted to stop by and say Happy New Year to everybody at Community Board 2. My office, Allison, is with us this evening, representing me, and she is comes to the CB2 meetings. As you know, there will be a meeting one day or soon where I'm in Albany and can't make it, kind of thing. But I wanted to come in early in the session. We have a lot of work to do. I went to the inauguration last week and to the State of the State address, which the governor gave yesterday. She outlined a number of things that she's going to be focusing on in her executive budget, which will not be released for about 2 weeks. So we don't have a budget yet. We don't have any idea what's where that money will be spent. She did talk in some ways about $1 billion more for mental health. I was encouraged by a number of the points she made. I say that with a caveat that I have not yet read the 275-page book of her proposals, which is now online. So I've looked at some of it, but not at very much yet today. She is really outlining a need to do a great deal of housing development throughout the state, which is really critically important. There are a number of places throughout the state where really it is very difficult to build anything other than a single family home. And she's really encouraging a lot of the suburbs have higher targets, for example, than upstate, where they have less of a housing shortage. They have problems with their housing not being in great shape, some of it, but they don't have the same kind of housing shortage that we have downstate and in the closer suburbs. And she has set targets for the municipalities to determine how they do that. So whether they restore housing that is currently where people are not living, whether they convert from an office building, for example, or something else into housing, doesn't have to be brand new construction, for example, that municipality can find a way to meet that goal. That works locally, which is, I think, important because it's nuanced and there isn't one size that will fit all. But that's very important. I think it's critically important here. If you look at Brooklyn, there are lots of parts of Brooklyn where they're very low FAR, for example, a lot of single family homes. Zoning is always a challenge. But I will encourage, I hope, the city as well as other places to do more urban planning in a way that meets the needs of the people in their municipalities. So it's being, they're going to be doing that work. The other thing she's talking about is really fixing mental health care. We have disinvested in mental health for decades, and clearly COVID has made people who were not seriously mentally ill more seriously mentally ill. Those people who were seriously mentally ill, who really were falling between the cracks, those cracks are even wider, and there are many more of them now today. She is really incentivizing creation of psych beds. As you may know, the state has been reducing the number of psych beds for years. And in some places like Methodist, I remember being out there protesting during COVID because when people were dying of COVID, some of the hospitals were reducing the number of psych beds. But of course, COVID was going to create a greater need for psych beds. And we have now seen that come full circle. And she also said that last year we did provide extra money to hospitals to increase psych beds, but a number of those hospitals have not actually done that. And so she is really going to be focusing on enforcing that coming up. And I think that's important as well. The other issue she talked about is energy production and really getting us off fossil fuels, very important here in the city, and finding ways to help homeowners convert their homes to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels. And I think that's going to be very important. I'm looking forward to seeing what NYSERDA does in that way to help make people be more comfortable and have the capital they need to make those kinds of changes. I know in central Brooklyn, the average homeowner is a woman over 50. And if you know women over 50, they really don't want to know what's going on in the basement and looking at their furnaces, right? So I want to work on an issue with my women colleagues in government about finding a way that we can really address this issue for women who are homeowners who might be very hesitant to take on the task of converting from fossil fuels. And then, of course, she also talked about public safety, which is critical, as you know. And I was pleased that she clearly said that, you know, the ills of the world are not the bail reform is not responsible for that. Bail reform didn't cause a national crisis in crime, but to the extent that there are loopholes or things that need to be adjusted, we're going to look at those. But she clearly was not going to be just getting rid of bail reform, which has been the talking point, as you may know, of some parts of our state and some people. And I think that that's critically important because we need to be a little bit more careful and nuanced in that approach and address the real needs of people and not the made up needs and the rhetoric. We really need to work on that. And and I will say that because of where I sit in the chamber, I was kind of facing the governor from the side, and I could look easily over at my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle, and all of them were very unhappy with her conversation about that. So that gave me some heart. I will leave it at that. I do want to say that one of the things that you may be hearing about, because Linda, you mentioned the BQE, always the ever-present BQE issues. The elected officials locally put out a joint statement. So if Lincoln is coming by and talking lately, he'll probably talk about it as well. The DOT, Senator Kavanaugh and I passed a bill called Weigh in Motion that would allow us to issue automatic violations electronically for illegally overweight trucks. And some of that has been installed, but what we have found is that it's been installed in one direction, not the other yet. They are on track to do that in the spring. But part of the problem we have found just recently is that the mechanisms and the standards by which they have to do this calibration, the national standards aren't quite as advanced as we are. So it's good. It's a first in the nation program, but it also means that there are some growing pains with this. We're very frustrated by that because we didn't know about this until just now. I feel like I would have liked to have known much more about it to the extent that I could do something legislatively. I would have liked to have been working on that legislation all fall. So I'm, in the unhappy camper department when it comes to city DOT on that. But I want everybody to know that the most important thing about this is that they did tell us that's important. We want to encourage them to be more transparent about those things, but also that the elected officials in the area, including Senator Kavanaugh, who is concerned about this, even though he no longer represents part of Brooklyn, that we are all on board and working together and issued a joint statement. So we are all working together to ensure that the public has more information and that we are able to speed this up as much as possible. And so I will leave it at that unless anybody has any questions. And thank you for the suggestion.
I have one quick question before I open it up to my colleagues. Given your comments that you're ending with, do you have a perspective or any insight on what can be done to enhance enforcement? You know, we know that we have the weight restriction, but it seems like enforcement is a gap yet to be solved.
Enforcement of what, though, in particular?
Of the weight of trucks on the.
Well, here's the problem is that, and really a lot of it is geography.
Okay.
And topography. In order to weigh an overweight truck, these are big trucks. Mm-hmm. There's no place to pull a truck over to weigh it.
True.
Right?
True.
So you would spend all day and all month and all this decade defending lawsuits brought by people if you're just relying on the cop, eyeballing the weight of the truck, right? there's no way to really do that. So we know they're illegally overweight trucks. They do have sensors in the ground that have determined that there's roughly an amount of overweight trucks. But the issue about being able to calibrate it so that it's accurate. It communicates with DMV and the Department of Finance, and all those systems are working together on something. This has never been done in the country, that automatic violations have been issued as a result of the weights by these sensors. So it's a technically complicated thing. I knew it would take about a year. What we're finding is it's taking a little longer than that, and we don't know when we will have an answer on that. We're hoping that we will have an answer from, there are third-party organizations that create standards, right? And so I talked to somebody in the press today and said, it's important about weights and measures, and those are done by third parties, and everybody follows those. So when you go to the deli, you want to make sure, if you're buying the pound of ham, you want to make sure you get a whole pound of ham. And the deli owner wants to make sure you don't get an ounce more. So everybody is protected by having accuracy in those measurements. And of course, if you're going to issue a violation, you want to make sure that that's accurate and that it's standardized and calibrated according to whatever those standards are in the field. I'm good at making a reference to deli counters. Beyond that, I don't have any technical expertise in this, so I don't want to say things I don't know. But I do think it's important that we understand that that's kind of part of what's going on here. And that I think that City DOT believed that they would be able to get something done and had assurances from someone within this group. And those assurances are no longer as clear, in part because of different personnel in those organizations. So they can better explain that. And I think certainly people should reach out to them. I think they're going to be presenting or talking about this at the Community Visioning Council meeting, which is scheduled for tomorrow evening. And so people, I would encourage people to participate in that. The Community Vision Council meetings are open to the public, even if you're not on the Community Vision Council. So I think that's would be a good thing if anybody wants, further information about that.
So thank you. That's helpful. Assembly member, do you have time for 3 questions from board members?
Sure. Then I have to leave for another community board meeting.
Sure. And then what we'll do is when you leave, we'll turn it over to Allison to see if there's any additional updates or any messages that she wants to amplify that you've given. So with that,
great, thanks.
Any community board members, 3 board members who have questions for for Assemblywoman Simon? All right, great. So Allison, anything you want to add?
Somebody has a hand up. Christina has a hand up. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, but I'm not sure Christina's a board member.
Oh, a board member. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I
that's
know
why I didn't want to call, but okay.
Because the community can always reach out to you, and actually Allison put her information in the chat. So
right.
Allison, is there anything else that you want to add on in support of Assemblywoman Simon?
Well, I know I make the plug every month. I'm going to do it again, that we have free at-home rapid COVID tests in our office, and we encourage everyone to stop by and get a couple if you need them. The rates are still very high right now, so we want to keep everyone safe.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Assemblywoman. Have a great evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for serving. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to ask if C.Olsen, are you on to represent Senator Gounardes?
Yes.
How are you? Welcome.
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I and everyone at Senator Gounardes' office were absolutely thrilled to represent around half of CB2, thrilled to be part of the new district. Senator Gounardes previously represented, from Bay Ridge out east to Marine Park. The new district is parts of Diker Heights, then it covers Bay Ridge, and going up north, Sunset Park, Gounardes, Park Slope, Carroll Gardens, Red Hook, Cobble Hill, Boerum Hill, Brooklyn Heights, and then downtown Brooklyn and Dumbo. So around half of CD2. I've left I've put in the chat a map where you can select the Senate district and then see what parts of CD2 it covers. It's basically, so it's basically everything west of Flatbush, and then east of Court Street, it's everything north of Warren, and then west of Court Street, it is, I believe, everything north of Atlantic, though we're still learning all the zigs and zags. Nevertheless, you know, we're really happy to be here. So just a little about the senator for those who are getting to know him. He grew up in Bay Ridge and is raising his family there. He's long, you know, fought for labor rights and holding the wealthy accountable, including sexual harassment law reform, making wage theft easier to prosecute, expanding the tuition assistance program, and the new deal for CUNY to make CUNY tuition free, and you know, make much needed investments in the capital program. He's also passed life-saving speed camera legislation to expand our speed cameras so that they're 24/7, and we'll continue to, you know, pursue legislation, you know, against traffic violence in the coming legislative session. So just a quick overview of our vision for the next 6 months as we, you know, get to work in Albany. You know, in general, our priority is working families and making New York more affordable. Senator Gounardes recently introduced the Working Families Tax Credit Bill. You can kind of think of it as a New York State version of the since expired federal child tax credit to provide increased support to, you know, working families with children statewide, you know, for things like food, shoes, and heating. He is the lead Senate sponsor of the New York for All legislation, which would prohibit state and local law enforcement from colluding with immigration and customs enforcement and enforcing federal immigration law without a warrant. Additionally, housing legislation to provide tenant protection for tenants who were evicted unjustly. And then in addition to the new deal for CUNY, which would make CUNY tuition free and make those capital investments to bring the facilities and staffing levels in line with national standards. He's also introduced legislation to ban legacy admissions and ensure that, you know, everyone has a fair shot at college. Investing in the MTA, he was the first elected official member of the Riders Alliance, I believe, and is a strong supporter of the 6-minute service campaign to improve the frequency of our subways and buses, you know, not just in CD2 in Brooklyn, but across the city. Stopping reckless drivers, you know, and taking action to reduce hospitalizations due to traffic incidents. The Stop Silencing Survivors Act, you know, which would kind of, you know, make changes to, you know, sexual harassment law, you know, to you know, make these matters kind of easier to prosecute and easier for survivors to seek justice. And then we recently also introduced the Child Data Privacy and Protection Act, which would, you know, place new limits, you know, above and beyond, you know, federal standards on, you know, what social media companies, you know, what companies like TikTok and stuff, you know, how they must, you know, kind of ensure that they are not marketing, you know, certain products and, you know, certain types of content to children. And, you know, so any questions or if you'd like to kind of get in touch with our office, you can email us at Gounardes, GOUNARDES @nysenate.gov, or call our office at 718-238-6044. I'm leaving those numbers in the chat as well. We don't have a screener on our phone. We take all calls. Please feel free to reach out. You know, in addition, of course, to answering questions about you know, legislation and the priorities of our office, you know, we also take constituent services very seriously. So you know, so please do feel free to reach out. for help with the city or state agencies, anything SNAP, social services, unemployment, housing, applications, and many others. And of course, if our office is unable to assist, we'll do our best to connect you with someone who can. So our current location, for those of you who'd like to walk in, we are for now still in Bay Ridge at 8018 Fifth Avenue. In March, we'll move to Gounardes. Stay tuned on the exact location. And beginning February 1st, every other Wednesday, we'll be beginning our mobile office program at the Brooklyn Heights branch of the Brooklyn Public Library, with more locations to come. And that would be every other Wednesday from 2 to 5 p.m. So,
Thank
and
you,
then
Cliff.
yeah, thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the update. Welcome to CB2. Look forward to seeing you more and continue to give us more robust updates. Fantastic.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next, let me call on B.Schmid. She's representing Congressman Dan Goldman from the New York 10. So Betsy, welcome.
Hi. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'll be the liaison from Representative Goldman's office to CB2. I am coming from working with Congresswoman Maloney, so I've been doing this for a couple years. I'm going to be the senior casework manager in the office. I have a board report that I'll get shared to Taya so that you can see everything. Just know, so we're going to have a Brooklyn office. It's going to be at 340A 9th Street. It is currently undergoing a little construction. It was a dentist office, so got to make a few changes to be ready to be our office, but we should be open first week in February. Don't worry, we are active. We're getting everything up and running. But if you want to walk in, you're going to have to wait just a little longer, but I'm sure we will have an announcement out when that opens. Just to know, Representative Goldman was sworn in last early Saturday morning after the couple days of the speaker situation. And so that's, he's excited to finally get to take his oath of office and already is hard at work. He introduced a bill with Representative Phillips and Representative Crow that would designate January 6th as a Democracy Day, and he will remain vigilant in the fight to preserve and protect our democracy. He also, you may have seen, filed a complaint with Representative Torres against Representative George Santos for the violations of the House ethics. Well, asking for the ethics committee to look into the lies that have come out about Representative Santos, where he's admitted to misleading voters in his district about his ethnicity, religion, education, employment, professional history, among other things. So Representatives Goldman and Torres are holding their colleague accountable. He also this week voted no on 2 Republican anti-reproductive freedom bills that would open the door to allowing politicians to interfere with family decisions and the right to choose. For decades, anti-choice extremists have harassed and bullied people who seek to provide reproductive health care with little or no accountability. And Representative Goldman's going to continue to defend and advance reproductive justice. Also, just today, he announced with Representative Velázquez that they are co-leading the Public Housing Emergency Response Act, which would authorize $70 billion for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Public Housing Capital Fund to be used to eliminate the public housing capital backlog of maintenance and repairs. So essentially, it could help address all of the repairs we know that are needed across the country, but especially in New York at NYCHA buildings, which the federal government helps subsidize. And finally, this week, the Environmental Protection Agency announced the largest amount of environmental justice grant funding, $100 million that are coming through the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed last year. I am sure that you will see more about that, and when we know more about grants and how those could be accessed, we will be putting that out. But the Environmental Justice Collaborative Problem Solving Program, that's a mouthful, will provide $30 million in funding directly to community-based nonprofit organizations. Oh, actually, look, I have a link right here. It's in the board report. I will send it over. So if you think that your nonprofit would qualify for that, take a look at that. And yeah, look forward to more coming out of our office as we get settled, and very excited to represent this district.
Thank you, Betsy. Welcome again. Thank you for participating. Look forward to seeing more of you in the future.
Thank you.
Great. So I'm going to call on A.Wright, representing Councilmember Crystal Hudson.
Hey y'all, thanks Chair Singletary, and great to see everyone. Happy New Year, as the chair said. This is the last week we can say it, so one last time. I'll be speedy, so I'm gonna try to pull up some slides as I talk just to save time. So our office is right now hosting, there we go, just pulled it up. We're hosting constituent services sessions at the Brooklyn Public Library. It's gonna be the second Tuesday of every month, 4 to 8. So folks can just stop by. There's no need to make appointments. Any issue you have, so like older adult support, tenant support, housing applications, whatever you need, please, share this with your friends and neighbors and let them know we'll be there. And so the next clinic is gonna be on February 7th. We had one yesterday. So yes, please share this far and wide. And then as usual, we have our free legal help every Thursday in the office. It's from 2:30 to 6. That is based by appointment, so please call our office. Our office number is 718-260-9191 to make an appointment. And our attorney will be able to consult with you. He can't represent anyone, but he can provide legal advice to folks. Next is AIM Up, as we're calling it. It's the Atlantic Avenue Mixed Use Plan. I've mentioned this in previous meetings, but we're having our first kickoff meeting on January 17th at 6 o'clock. This is a great way to learn how you can be involved in the planning process for Atlantic Avenue. Over the past few years, there have been a number of spot rezonings in this area. And so now we're finally got the city to the table to actually make sure we have a comprehensive plan for this corridor. So I'll make sure to put the link in the chat and share it with Taya. But essentially, we're asking folks to RSVP and they can learn more on how to be involved. And then lastly, discretionary funding. Budget season's back again for the city. And like the Senator Brisport said, we also have discretionary funding at the city level. So eligible nonprofits, it's really just about any nonprofit can apply for city funding this year. The due date for the application is February 21st. And we're also hosting some free webinars for folks. I think on the next ones are going to be on the 13th and then the 25th and 26th. So if you'd like to register, you can follow the links in the presentation. I'll also put them in the chat, or call our office in the number I mentioned. And then for folks on the phone, our district email address is district35@council.nyc.gov. So that's it for me, and thanks again.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. I understand that Councilmember Restler may be joining us, and I think he may have a conflict at the moment, but Arvin, are you on?
I am Chair Singletary. I think let's wait for Lincoln. I think we have a few updates that he'd love to share. He just has a meeting conflict right now, but he'll be back on soon.
We'll come back to him, but do you have any updates you want to provide in the meantime?
I'll wait for Lincoln to hop on.
All right, perfect. So we're going to move on in the agenda because, oh, I'm sorry, no, we have J.Watkins representing the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office.
Yes, good evening, everyone. First of all, myself and DA Gonzalez send well wishes for the new year, for a safe, productive, and happy 2023. And the DA, as usual, is very, very busy, really working practically 7 days a week, along with his team of other ADAs who are, very diligently going about the efforts to protect the community and the courts and the community. First of all, DA Gonzalez is making his rounds through the various media and news outlets. I believe I saw this morning that he'd done a interview on WNYC, which I listen to every morning. So you could probably go on WNYC and find that interview, which I know he's discussing about crime prevention in the borough, and also some of the highlights about some of the accomplishments that he and his team has made over the past year. He's still advising and informing the community about his Stop Violence initiative, which is a comprehensive program to end gun violence that is so prevalent in Brooklyn and in the surrounding communities. So that is something that is very much foremost on the DA's agenda, to continue to educate the community about that. In that same vein, last month, the end of December, DA Gonzalez, along with our partners in the NYPD, had a very successful gun buyback program. And we recovered over 100 guns that were turned in. Now, this is very, very important in Brooklyn, in New York City, and around the nation. We hear about very unfortunate situations. I'm sure everyone's heard about the 6-year-old who unfortunately got a hold of his mother's handgun and unfortunately shot and injured a teacher. So when children and others find these weapons, even though they may be lawfully acquired, they are at risk of hurting others and themselves. So our gun buyback program was very successful, and probably in the next several months, there will be another one. Next is, I always refer people to our website, brooklyndA.org. I was reviewing it this afternoon and really very proud to see in those press releases what I call some of the, well, for lack of better words, the highlights, but really I see it as a production report, month by month, of all of the different things that the district attorney's office, led by DA Gonzalez, with our partners in the NYC, are accomplishing month by month in the community for the protection of Brooklyn. Some of these things are unfortunate situations that occur, very tragic, but it's really important that the community visit our website. You'll find it under press releases in the news drop down. And because we really want the community to know about the hard work that's being conducted every single day by DA Gonzalez, his ADAs, and with all of our partners and the NYPD and other law enforcement agencies. And I'll wrap up by informing people that we do have, starting off with the first part of the year, a number of cultural events. So we encourage you to visit and stay tuned to our website. We'll be starting off with Black History Month and then Women's History, and actually before that, the Asian New Year's that will be coming up, and then later in the early part of the year, Women's History and so forth. So we definitely want the community to be participants and celebrate with us with all the accomplishments that people are making in our community. That's all I have for right now. Thank you very much and Happy New Year.
Thank you, John. Happy New Year to you as well. I don't see anyone else. So now I'm going to move on to city agencies and community partners. And first, I'd like to call up, if he has something to say, Detective Kenny from the 88 Precinct Community Affairs.
I'm here. I want to introduce myself and just listening to the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, Detective Kenny. Welcome. Next, I'm going to call on Renee Collymore.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Quickly, I just want to share with you, I came on the Community Board 2 committee meeting about a month and a half ago or so, speaking about the 5G towers. Now, as some of you may know, there are giant towers about 32 feet tall, or 3 stories, with housing for multiple 5G antennas being almost 20 feet high. And this is a part of the plan to install 4,000 5G cell towers in the entire city. Now, in Community Board 2, the locations are 8 Old Fulton Street, which is a residential in front of a renovated landmark building built in 1861 with a very narrow sidewalk. And the other location in Community Board 2 is 633 Flushing Avenue, in front of the FISA building. January 16th is short notice. I do realize that, but that is the deadline that if any of you would want to call up and to speak, CB2 may want to request an extension of time to consider this proposal, if possible, or maybe even to disapprove or explore the possibilities of voting on for a moratorium until the questions and concerns are addressed, similar to what other community boards are doing, like in Manhattan, CB8, and other New Yorkers who are a part of the Community Board of Families across the city. As you know, there have been very serious health concerns, public health and safety, including the risk of cancer and other medical conditions from wireless radiation. So we're just asking tonight that if you all, CB2 only has until January 16, 2023 to provide feedback to the Office of Technology and Innovation before January 16th, and to ask for an extension of time to consider this proposal or disapprove. This is very important to the health for the New Yorkers across our boroughs. All right, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Renee. Next, I'm going to call on Ellen from Brooklyn Academy of Music.
Hi, so sorry, 1 second so I can just come off camera. Apologies, I'm working off of an iPad and thank you for calling on me, Chairman. I just wanted to bring attention to our annual MLK Day celebration, which will be taking place this Monday, MLK Day. We have a full program. Our speaker this year, the keynote speaker is Sherilyn Eiffel. The musical performer is Allison Russell. And we will have many elected officials and dignitaries in attendance, giving speeches to honor Dr. King. I'd also like to invite everyone here to a community breakfast that we have that morning at 9 a.m. at BAM. If anyone would like to attend that, please reach out to me directly. My email address is E.Lesinski, my last name, LESZYNSKI@bam.org. We would love to host you and see you there. And if anyone has any questions, please reach out and we hope to see you at a program. And we will also be live streaming it. It won't be available after the live stream, but if you can catch it while it's live, we will be live streaming it from our website. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I wish you all that I can, you should attend the MLK event at BAM. It's usually insightful. And if you have not heard Ms. Eiffel, she's a phenomenal speaker. So just a reinforcement for BAM. Vladimir, are you on from the Department of Buildings?
Yes, hello. How are you?
How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight. It's a pleasure. Currently, I don't have much to report on in any DOB matters, but anything that I get, I'll make sure to pass it along to let you know. But for now, there are no updates currently.
Fantastic, thank you.
No problem.
Regina Lindsay from the Brooklyn Navy Yard, are you on?
Sorry, it took me a moment to find mute. I don't have any updates. Thank you all for giving me the floor, Chairman, but no updates, just here to observe. Thank you.
That's fantastic, thank you. Oh, I see Dan Wiley is on, representing Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. Dan, do you have any updates for us?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Thanks. Along with kids.
We just look forward to hearing the little voices when you jump on. So it's for the course. It's cool. No problem.
So
in networking,
I got
it's
two
okay.
of them. I got two of them. Okay, Sam, I'm going to talk now at this community board meeting. So you do your thing, I'll do mine. Congresswoman Velázquez, you know, there's been some district changes. So now we have more of the eastern part of Community Board 2. We lost Brooklyn Heights, but we've gained Farragut through Fort Greene and Clinton Hill, as well as being pushed further into Queens, Long Island City, believe it or not. So we will be engaging you from that side. And I also wanted to mention that today the Congresswoman reintroduced her bill to fully fund public housing repair backlog backlogs nationwide. This is her bill to fund public housing authorities across the country to the tune of $70 billion, 32 billion of which would be allocated to the New York City Housing Authority. As we know, their backlog is actually bigger than that. I can't say much in terms of what the next 2 years will bring in terms of leadership, although we are proud that our Brooklyn native Hakeem Jeffries is our leader. I can't say much for the other leader, though he beat him 14 times, I have to say. But at least for this fiscal year, the Congresswoman has secured funding for a number of projects in the area, and we will be doing some ribbon cuttings. Arab American Family Support Center, along with the Academy of Medical and Public Health Services, we've funded $1.8 million for an initiative for mental health for immigrant populations. And we also have stewardship and education funding for Brooklyn Bridge Park Conservancy and St. Anne's Warehouse, along with some other groups in other parts of her district that include Ridgewood. And also Barrio Solar for a solar project and affordable housing of $750,000. And also, close to your heart, Lenny, we have $1.5 million for St. Francis College's nursing simulation lab for educating future nurses in coordination with Brooklyn Hospital Center. And as we see with the nursing strike, very important that we are getting good development for people to take these nursing jobs and not be overburdened, that there's enough nursing staff to meet demand. So those are a few of the things that we were able to get in terms of community funding projects. We have 15 of them, and you can always look at them at velázquez.house.gov for this fiscal year. But I'm not sure what's going to happen in terms of the government for the next 2 years under the leadership we're yoked with. So those are some of the highlights. And I just also wanted to mention that the Congresswoman will be doing a town hall in the 4th week of February. So we'll give you more details on that when it comes up, but it will be in the neighborhood, either Ingersoll Community Center or St. Joseph's. We're just hammering down the location. Anyway, Happy New Year, everybody.
Great. Thank you, Dan. And I'm always amazed and have you mastered the ability to communicate with us like there's no background noise. That's just a fantastic skill. Keep it up. Thank you.
Apparently there's an app you can use to get rid of the background noise. Someone could teach me on that.
No, don't get rid of the background noise. That's sweet music. Children are always a good sound, so don't worry about that. It's fantastic. Next, I'm going to call on Benel Greer from IMPACCT.
Hi, everyone. I actually always attend these twofold. One is a resident of the community board, but also in representing IMPACCT Brooklyn. So I initially came on to echo what Andrew from Council Member Crystal Hudson. We are part of the steering committee for the Atlantic Avenue visioning. So wanting everyone to be able to sign up and be part of the visioning of Atlantic Avenue. Separate and apart from that, IMPACCT Brooklyn is starting an 8-week business development program for BIPOC and women entrepreneurs. And you can sign up for it. We'll make sure that the community board has the information. But it's again, overall workshops that will continue. And at the end, there's the opportunity to receive up to $10,000 in an implementation grant upon successful completion of the course requirements. So looking forward to that. And then lastly, with Hakeem, before Hakeem Jeffries' departure from being our covering the congressional district that we're in, he provided funding to Pratt Community Economic Development, to Pratt Center, to Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation, and to IMPACCT to be able to implement a program for energy retrofits for homeowners in the district. So we will hopefully be announcing more of that in the near future and wanting families to be able to sign up for that support. So I thank you for the opportunity. And other than that, I'm listening to know what's going on in my community. Thank you.
Thank you. And glad you could join. And thank you for the updates. Next, I'm going to call on Richard for the Red Cross.
Good evening, Chairperson Singletary, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Morrow. I'm the Greater New York Red Cross Community Relations Ambassador for Community Board 2. Around the country, we are presently assisting in 45 disaster relief operations. 38 are in the midsection and eastern region of our country. All are climate change related. This week locally, we assisted 108 adults and 23 children following 37 fire disaster responses. Another plague is infecting our children, as we witnessed last week with a 6-year-old shooting his teacher. The Gun Violence Archive, launched in 2013, is an online project that aims to document incidents of gun violence and gun crime nationally. 2022 was grim. 6,115 children were killed and injured. The children are categorized by age. Children aged 0 to 11, 312 killed, 676 injured. Children aged 12 to 17, 1,348 killed, 3,779 injured. Education Week reported that in 2022, there were over 140 children and teachers killed or injured in school shootings, 30% higher than it's ever been. Internationally, US citizens own 42% of the world's privately held guns. As of 7 p.m. tonight, January 11th, 11 days since January 1st, 198 children have started the 2023 Gun Violence Archive. Thousands of children across the United States are being murdered and injured by gun violence. Additionally, the 75 million children living in America are being emotionally traumatized by these senseless acts. The numbers have quadrupled since 2014. This is tragic, yet it is preventable. Alfred North Whitehead wrote, "The deepest definition of youth is life as yet untouched by tragedy." Today, our children and we live in a world of uncertainty, anxiety, and worry. We cannot allow senseless gun violence to be the normal for our communities. Solutions to the present situation will not come like pharmaceutical remedies. A much longer treatment will be necessary. We can start by reaching out to elected officials expressing the need for life-saving, common sense gun safety reforms. Dr. Martin Luther King wrote, "The best way to solve any problem is to remove its cause." A reminder, the Red Cross virtual and in-person programs can help you and our community. Our courses are free and deal with disaster self-help preparedness. Please check out our website, redcross.org, for details and to view our programs. I am always grateful for the opportunity to speak here.
Thank you, Richard. I just want to do a quick check. Has Councilmember Restler joined? Okay, great. Moving it down the list of community partners, the Brooklyn Public Library.
Hello.
Hello.
I hope all can hear me and I don't also give you a lot of kid background noise. Thank you so much for letting us speak. My name is Rachel Tiemann, branch manager with the Brooklyn Heights Library, and I and my colleagues will share a few things, exciting things going on with Brooklyn Public Library at this time. Tomorrow at Brooklyn Heights, we have a very exciting author event. Rachel Aviv will be speaking about her new book, Strangers to Ourselves, at 6 p.m. And there'll also be a talk back after with the author. We've been trying to do these once a month, and that's been really exciting for us. We're looking forward to the Brooklyn Symphony Orchestra doing some live concerts in our space coming up soon. We also have a very popular chair yoga class, which starts again January 23rd. I think people would mutiny if we didn't keep doing that program. It's so popular. We also have our Brooklyn Writers Exchange every Thursday from 6 to 7:30. So if any of you out there are interested in writing, getting back into writing, and you just want a community to write with, come to Brooklyn Heights every Thursday night and you'll find a community that you can write with. We also have a very popular adult coloring at 2 p.m. on Wednesdays. So come on out for all of those fun things. For our teen events, we have a monthly series called Science in the House, where we have a Zoom meeting with a scientist. This month on the 19th at 4 p.m., we'll be talking with a space flight physicist. So if you've got any teens out there who really want to get their science on, check us out. You can get onto that virtually, so teens can meet us wherever they are. We're also going to be starting Teen Takeover. What is Teen Takeover? So once a month, teens will be taking over Brooklyn Heights branch for the next 6 months after hours, Fridays from 6 to 8 p.m. A teen advisory board is being pulled together now with our teen librarians, and that teen advisory board will have direct input on what we do in our teen takeovers. I will let you know next month if the library is still in one piece. Just kidding, it's going to have a lot of adult staffing. It's going to be fine and really exciting. And for kids, we're going to start a series with Hopalong Andrew, the famous New York singing cowboy. So he'll be coming to sing to the children of Brooklyn Heights on a monthly basis. So that's what I want to share with what's going on in the Heights. And I'm going to pass it on to my colleague at Adams Street, Kat Savage.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Chair and Community Board 2. My name is Kat. I'm the branch manager of the Adams Street Library, just down the hill from Brooklyn Heights Library in Dumbo, right under the Manhattan Bridge. I have a couple branch-specific updates and also some exciting information about BPL as a whole. So I'll start on the local side. At Adams Street Library, today was very busy. We've been seeing lots of folks in and out of the branch. Definitely word is out. It's been a year. So thank you for all of you for spreading the word and letting people know that we're here, we're open. One thing I do want to highlight, we've added an additional day for homework help for kids grades K through 8. So now we're offering that on Tuesdays afternoons as well as Wednesday afternoons, and our Wednesday volunteer is a high school individual. So I love that, you know, you're so close to it, you know it really well, that material. And then we also have some great events for adults. One of the most unique ones, I think, in the system is actually a record club. So record club meets once a month to discuss an item in the Brooklyn Public Library's new vinyl collection. So at Central Library, you can actually, once again, borrow vinyl records. So coming up this month, I don't have the date right in front of me, that's on me, but if you search for Record Club on the website, it'll come right up. And our Friends meeting, our Friends of Adams Street Library has identified a project that we're going to get off the ground, community book swap or sale, utilizing teen volunteers. So if you're interested in helping out with that on planning end, if you have teens that need volunteer hours, our next planning meeting will be January 24th in the evening. So let me know if you have any questions about that. And then really quickly, I'm really honored that to be part of Brooklyn Public Library, to be part of Brooklyn, because 5 librarians that work for BPL have been recognized by the Library Journal, which is the American Library Association's main organ, as the Librarians of the Year. For their work on Books Unbanned. We've talked a little bit about Books Unbanned in this forum, but essentially it fights against censorship across the country. A lot of books are being removed from school and public libraries based on their content. BPL believes in the freedom to read, so teens are able to apply for a digital card, giving them access to our ebook and e-audiobook collection that they can access from anywhere. And at this time, over 6,000 young adults from all 49 other states have applied. Teens in New York State can already get a free Brooklyn Public Library e-card. And that's it for me. And I'm tossing it over, I believe, to, oh shoot, I forgot, either Tracy or Alex. I'm so sorry, guys. How rude of me.
Oh, that's okay. It's me. I'm Tracy. I'm the branch librarian at the Clinton Hill branch. Your library card is also a culture pass. If you go to culturepass.nyc, you can sign in with your library card and have access to 75 theaters and musicians, 15 performing arts venues, and you can even go ice skating for free at Woolman Rink Park in Central Park. So you just have to take your library card, go to Culture Pass NYC, log in with your barcode and PIN number, and you can reserve your passes. Clinton Hill is doing homework help for grades K through 8 on Wednesdays from 3 to 6 and Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have restarted our programs for kids under the age of 5. Crafts have restarted on Wednesday mornings from 11 to 12, and story time, which is really popular, is Thursdays from 11 to 12 also. We're having teen games Thursdays from 4 to 5 and Teen Anime Club on Fridays from 4 to 5. And we have a lot of art programs coming up for adults. In January, on January 19th, we're having a fused glass jewelry program. On January 23rd, we're going to be having an introduction to macrame for adults. And looking forward to February, we're going to be doing a 2-part introduction to figure drawing series for adults. Part 1 is February 7th. Part 2 is February 21st. You don't need to go to Part 1 to attend to Part 2, and you don't need to pre-register for all of these programs. You just need to come early to secure a seat. And now I'm going to pass it over to Alex from Walt Whitman.
Good evening, everyone. I am the branch manager at the Walt Whitman Library, just north of Fort Greene Park. So we have a couple things. System-wide, we have, well, let's just start with this. Internet's important, right? So nearly 30% of Brooklynites lack a home broadband connection. In some neighborhoods, that's up to 50%. So the FCC is helping us all by providing qualified customers with a $30 credit to their internet or cell phone bill. Pretty much if you're part of SNAP, Medicaid, veterans benefits, I think even if you have a kid in school in the DOE, I think you qualify. If you go to, yeah, there you go. We also have a laptop and hotspot lending program through Brooklyn Public Library. If you go to, let me put the link, BKLYN.ly.org. Go there, brooklynlib.org/hotspot. You will find more details along with the branches that are participating. Now over to Walt Whitman. We also are going to have homework helpers after school. I just got the email right before this meeting, so I have no idea when and what days, but details to come. We also have a new chess class starting. It just started last week. It's on Wednesdays from 4:30 to 5:30. So if you have any kids or teens, even young adults interested in learning how to play chess or would like to play with others to, bolster their skills, send them on over. And we have our Let's Get Sketchy art class coming back in February, Tuesdays from 2 to 4, 7th, 14th, 21st, and 28th. This month will be figure drawing. So learn the basics like the stick figures and it'll flesh out from there, no pun intended. We are also going to have a photography/collage class coming up. More details to come, but that'll be sometime end of February. I'll mention it in the next meeting. And that's all I got.
Great. Thank you to the entire representation of the public library. So thank you for that update. And last but not least, I'm going to call on Cynthia McKnight from Community Education Council 13.
Happy New Year, everyone, and good evening. Thank you, Chair. I wanted to take the time to thank Betty for inviting me to this meeting. I get a lot of questions from people is, what is the Community Education Council? So I just wanted to share that. The Community Education Council 13 is charged by New York state law with promoting student achievement, advising and commenting on educational policies, and providing input to the Chancellor and the Panel for Educational Policy. We are elected to serve as school liaisons to school leadership teams, approve zoning laws and zoning lines, and hold public hearing on the district's capital needs. District 13 CEC has a track record of advocating and serving our schools and community, often leading the charge and leveraging their work for systemic shifts in education equity. Our next public hearing and general virtual meeting on the district's capital needs is on Tuesday, January 17th at 7 p.m. All are welcome to attend. CEC 13 is intentional about education, enrichment, and opportunity equity. We just had a District 13 7-week pilot Learn How to Swim program to address inequities in drowning. Over 800 people applied, and we partnered with the Inclusive Community Wellness, ICW. Special thanks to LIU for allowing us to use the pool, and Michael Rendozo and his team at ICW. CEC 13 we used a small part of our very small budget to pay for the program, and we are looking for additional funding to continue. We are also hosting mindfulness and stress management and conflict strategies through mindful nonviolent communication starting in February. We are also happy to share that we have a fabulous new superintendent, Megan Dunn, who is working diligently to improve our District 13 schools. We can use the community's help with the following. We are hiring administrative assistant, AA, for the Community Education Council 13. District 13 is also hiring a family support coordinator who interfaces with parents. You can email Lisa Pulaski for additional details. And our District 13 schools need substitute teachers. Our schools also are in desperate need for computers and laptops for students in schools. We are open to using and accepting used computers and laptops. We are also hosting a District 13 roller wave roller skating day at a new pop-up skating rink across the street from Barclays, located at 625 Atlantic Avenue. We need community help with purchasing tickets for our students in need. The Black-owned pop-up skating rink is open from February 10th to June 4th. And we are also planning an affordable housing town hall and are seeking experts and partners. So thank you, everyone. And I look forward to participating and attending these community board 2 meetings.
Thank you for that announcement, and hopefully everyone now has at least a brief and better insight of Community Education Council. And if you want more information, I suggest you take part in the Youth Education Cultural Affairs Committee, and then also try to find out more about CEC 13 and maybe participate that way. So with that, according to the various notes and messages I have, we're going to proceed with the agenda. So now we're going to move on to the next agenda item. And from what I see, that next item is community reports. Committee reports. No, I'm sorry, committees for action. So the first committee I see is Health, Environment, and Social Services.
We
Is there
can't
any-
hear you, Brandon.
Brandon, we can't hear you for some reason. Still can't hear you. I think the chair is experiencing some technical difficulties, so let's come back to him for a minute. Let me adjust the agenda and let me go to Mr. Gordon for the land use action item.
Thank you, Chair Lenny. Okay, again, it's for the Landmark Land Use Committee, which is saying, Karen Johnson, who's our secretary, for the work that she's been doing, trying to keep up with both her business work and family work and taking the notes and minutes for our committee. Our co-chair is Daughtry Christoffen, and I thank her for the work that she's been doing. And she's also on the Atlantic Avenue, Vision, committee, and we're trying, all of us are trying, especially with Daughtry's help, to look to find new affordable housing, if possible, in our district. Now we're going to move over to the Landmarks Preservation Commission Certificate of Appropriateness. We have one at 520 Clinton Avenue, which is the Church of Saint Luke and Saint Matthew. And it's basically they've asked for a number of things to be done at the church, both that can be seen from the public thoroughfare and cannot be seen from the public thoroughfare. Big thing is they want to do is they're doing some work on it's a big wooden door to replace the door that they've had. And we'll also have a bollard, which will have a activation, button thing, so that it will help. You'll have a new door that will be more, they feel the wooden door that will be more appropriate for the church, and also the activation button, which will help in pushing, it's push it and try to open it and get people to go in and out of the church. There's also going to be work on the, let's see, yes. Yes, the sidewalk, yes. Actually, it's going to be a ramp from, a concrete ramp that's going to be coming up from the sidewalk. That's going to go up to the church, which will help, especially those who with disabilities, to get into the church and get in and out easily. And also there'll be a 3 lampposts, 3 sort of like, well, it'll be new construction, but it'll be reflective of the design will be reflective of the church. It'll be of a sort of an old style. Okay, now there are some work that's not necessarily visible from the thoroughfare, but still there's work to be done inside the church. There'll be an elevator that's going to be, which will help from the outside, bringing people up in and out from the church as well. And there'll also be some removal of a number of the stained glass windows. They'll be moving about or protect so that, they'll try to keep them, but they'll be moving them around. Now, there was also a request to put in banners. The banners, and that request was withdrawn after consultation with the community groups. There are the 3 community groups that represent Clinton Hill and Fort Greene, and they've been coming to us and giving their opinions as to the work that's being done in and around Clinton Hill and Fort Greene. And the applicants at the church have decided to remove the banner. There is the request to put up one of those. This is a Episcopal church, and if you pass most Episcopal churches, they have a sort of a white and blue with a shield, welcome to the church, and all are welcome. And they've asked for that. Now there's been a bit of controversy over the signage, but we decided to recommend that, yes, that this would be part of it, that they would be able to put up a sign indicating that this is the church. And they're also asking for, reflecting modern times, their website as well. So we listened to what was proposed. The proposals were very good. We liked what we've heard, and we voted for it 11-1 in favor, and we asked for your support in the recommendation for 520 Clinton Avenue, the churches of St. Luke and St. Matthew.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. I'll entertain a motion to accept the committee's recommendation. Ms. Zala-Gringer, second, Mr. Jordan. Is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Jordan? You went back on mute.
Okay, thank you.
You're good.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Gordon, I just had a question about, you said about the windows moving from around the stained glass windows.
Right, it's trying to, yeah. they're moving them, they're readjusting because some of the areas, especially where the elevator is going to be going, it'll be where one of the stained glass windows are. So they're moving them about. They're trying to keep them, but at the same time, this will be part of the overall work that's being done. They don't want to destroy them, obviously.
So the plan is just to relocate them someplace else?
Relocate them, yeah, right.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'm going to ask that if you are in favor, that you would use the digital function to raise your hand in support of the committee's recommendation. So all in favor? Jessica, do you have a count?
Count the negatives. Yes.
Is that a yes? Or it's, I guess somebody. All right. So you can lower your hand.
So great.
Everyone who's raised their hand, click on the button that says lower your hand, please. Great. Anyone opposed? Community board members only. Anyone opposed? Please raise your hand. Okay, great. You can take your hand down now. And is there anyone who is abstaining? Okay, great. The motion carries. Thank you,
And just
Jessica.
ask for clarity,
Mhm.
Mr. Listowicki,
Mr. Lastowicki was opposed. He
you
wasn't
had
abstaining.
his hand up again for abstain.
I thought he never took it down.
He took it down.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Jessica, we're gonna put it down as opposed.
It sounds good.
I wanted to abstain. Abstain.
I'm glad you spoke up because you put it up for opposed, but all right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. No problem. I'm glad you spoke up. That's fine. But the motion carries. Okay. Now we're gonna go back to the top of the agenda for the Health, Environment, and Social Service Committee. I think there were some technical difficulties. I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Smith. Brandon? I'm telling you, you're still having difficulties. Brandon, are you on? Nicole, I'm gonna call on you. Are you able to give tonight's report?
Well, I am going to definitely try. I'm going to base it on the great minutes that Jessica drafted. Just quickly, we had a presentation, and it was from Heights and Hills, and they provide opportunities to support Brooklyn older adults. But the most important thing that happened during our meeting was the discussion on 2 new applications for full liquor, wine, beer, and cider applications. And the first one was 295 Front Cannonball LLC. A lot of the community came out.
Nicole, are you perhaps able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I just got started, Brandon, so you can take over. if
I
you
heard
want
you,
to.
and I just want to express my apologies to everybody for the audio difficulties. I believe I did a hard reboot on my laptop, and I'm back on. And apologies.
Brandon, no need to apologize. We thought you just went to that island behind you, so we're glad you
No.
came back. The floor is yours.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I'm glad that folks got to see. My name is Brandon Smith. I'm chair of Health, Environment, and Social Services Committee. My co-chair, who you all just got to meet, was Nicole McKnight. I'm very lucky to have such a great co-chair for that committee. And I want to proceed into the discussion that we have on our items for action. We had two very controversial liquor licenses that were discussed at our meeting last week. In fact, normally we have probably 7 to 10 liquor licenses and get through them in probably 40 minutes or so. In this meeting, we spent a total of 4 hours, which was almost entirely devoted to these two liquor licenses. The first license is an establishment that is entitled Cannonball. I just get the correct Cannonball LLC. This license is a catering license, and to give you some context, it's located at 295 Front Street in the Vinegar Hill neighborhood, which is an entirely residential community, and one that we've become very familiar with over the years on the HES committee with new establishments going in there and needing to get acquainted with the local community. The nature of this building, it's a commercial loft, is 7 stories, and the applicant here is going to occupy the 7th floor and the rooftop with a total capacity of 150 people. And the goal for the venue is to be an event venue where they will rent it out to different providers of weddings, bar mitzvahs, corporate events, and other private gatherings. They specifically state that they are not going to be holding parties or raves. The hours that were proposed for this location were 7 a.m. to 12 midnight every day, indoors and outdoors. The nature of the establishment was discussed pretty much at length. They're going to offer no music outdoors, but on the indoors, they're going to have acoustic music, live music, the potential for a DJ, things that you would normally associate with private events. The board office noted that there were 47 general objection letters received, 1 letter of general support, and no complaints about the owner operator's other location in the establishment. They reported operating 3 other locations. The one that folks may be most familiar with is the restaurant Romans in Fort Greene, and there was no history of violations or issues with neighbors at that location. When we asked them about signatures, they said, and the board office confirmed, that there were 70 signatures of support that were received, that were about 80% from folks in the neighborhood. They stated that they plan to open likely towards the end of 2023. It was confirmed that there are really no other similar places like this in this neighborhood. It's a very residential neighborhood. There are a lot of neighbors nearby. The outdoor space faces Front and Hudson. They're going to try to book the space as many days as possible. And the applicant's attorney further confirmed that the 200-foot rule would not apply, and they identified in their license the 500-foot rule would not apply. They indicated that they would make their contact information available to the local community. They indicated that they would respond within 12 hours to any complaints. They initially indicated they didn't plan to have any security or soundproofing at this location. And our first question to them was whether they'd engaged with the Vinegar Hill Association, and they stated they had engaged with some members of the Vinegar Hill Association. We had that 7 minutes of a presentation. We had about a 25 minutes of committee Q&A. This was followed by 35 minutes of engagement from the community. We heard from a number of different community members who were 100% opposed to the application. They were largely members of the local community who lived around this establishment, and they expressed concerns about noise, about traffic, about the fact that their neighborhood was such that in the middle of the night you can literally hear a pin drop. The fact that given the nature of the disparity of this location to other similar sorts of locations, that this application should not be approved. And we had a 32-minute discussion following that, where we tried to balance a number of different interests that would exist with this application. On the one hand, there was clearly a significant amount of community opposition to granting the application. On the other hand, it's a commercial operator who had no history of violations in other locations. And in the course of, and there are also several risk factors with this, and that the private events, weddings, the use of certain kinds of music were factors that would weigh in favor of trying to limit this application. On the other hand, the fact that there was no music outside, and they expressed some willingness to work with the hours and be flexible, it seemed to go in the other direction. So after a number of different points that were discussed, our committee did vote in favor of approving the application by a margin of, I believe it's 6-1-2, but there were several conditions. First, the condition would be a presumption of no outdoor hours Sunday through Thursday at all. In addition, the outdoor space would need to close by 9 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. We discussed the feasibility of this with the applicant. Their only request to us was they wanted to be able to do certain kinds of corporate events. And we came to a conclusion that if that was what they wanted to do, and we had certainly concerns about noise at night at the location, the committee agreed that Sunday through Thursday, as long as they weren't operating with more than 50 people in attendance, that they could have operations extend until 5 p.m. So it's 5 p.m. Sunday to Thursday, 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday, but the 5 p.m. comes with an expectation that it would be not more than 50 people. A separate condition is that they must have security present for any events that have over 50 people there. Definitely a wedding or a bar mitzvah or an event that has a lot of people in attendance is going to be, just increases the likelihood that there would be some element of risk associated with somebody drunk or doing something that was not appropriate. And having security for those kind of events was a key element of our decision. Another element of our decision is that they need to hold a meeting with the Vinegar Hill Association and the local community prior to opening. They were agreeable to doing this, and it's generally an expectation that there's engagement with the local community. They did provide the signatures. We did give an opportunity for everyone who was there at the meeting to express their concerns and have input on the decision that we reached. But the importance of having that community meeting can't be overstated. Additionally, we had made a condition that they obtain soundproofing of the walls and ceilings for this location, and that they close all the windows and doors when they're holding events. This is important because certainly the residential neighborhood that surrounds this location needs to be insulated from any sort of noise that's coming out of this location, and it was important for us to have that condition for that reason. So that was certainly the the committee's decision with regard to 295 Front. I'll proceed to the second application that we heard, which it was remarkable. We had these two applications on the same night as they were both very controversial in nature. The second item that we heard from was 85 Flatbush Avenue Extension. Real Hospitality Group, however, we colloquially know this as the Tillery Hotel. We have a 7-year history with the Tillery Hotel and its issues with the local neighbors in Bridge Plaza, who have always attended our meetings and provided feedback. I'm not going to go through the whole 7-year history here, but I will say that it got to a point where the board office had to write a letter to the State Liquor Authority notifying them that they had come to our meeting and clearly stated to us that they weren't going to comply with terms that they had agreed to in their application in the past. There's been several sales and transfers of ownership of the location, and we've had issues with multiple owners and multiple managers. With all of this in mind, and with the local community there at the meeting giving us substantial feedback on the nature of the premise, and there also being just something structural about the second floor terrace area, we came to a decision that the license, which allows for the hotel to operate indoors from 10 to 2 a.m. on weekdays, and 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Monday through Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Sunday. But for the outdoor area, there was a condition consistent with how we've treated this location in the past, that there be no music, and that the outdoor terrace close at 10 p.m. on Sunday to Thursday, and 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. And with the with those conditions, the applicants were agreeable to move forward with it being a new ownership, and with the community being willing to support the business in engaging, albeit with some limitations. The committee voted 9-0-0 to approve that application. We also had some renewals and some other items, but I will stop there and be happy to take the next steps in hand.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'd like to, just because of the differences in the applications, I'd like to split these up if there's no objections. And what I'd like to do is entertain a motion for the committee's recommendation on the first item that was presented this evening. So, Mr. Jordan, you making a motion? So, Mr. Jordan, can I get a second? Second from Mr. Gordon. Is there any discussion on the motion? Let me start with Daughtry. Daughtry?
Thank you, Lenny. I just have a quick question for clarification on 295 Front Street. It's directly across the street from an elementary school. And Brendan, did I hear you say that it is not within the 200-foot radius of the school, 295 Front?
Right, and that's not my representation. That's the representation of their attorney, who is a member of the bar and is obligated to, by ethics, to make a correct statement of the law. As we've noted at committee meetings, it's not our committee's purview to decide the 200-foot rule and whether it applies, but it does influence how the State Liquor Authority makes their decisions. And for that reason, what we can do is we can ask the applicants what their representation is, and I fully believe they'll continue to make that representation to the Liquor Authority.
Okay, great. I would appreciate that because, just from my cursory reference documents like Zola, it does not appear that that is the truth. So if they can show some backup to confirm that, that would be great.
Thank you, Georgie. Taya, if you would, can we do some research also within the board office to validate that statement so that when we do send it, whatever letter we choose to send, we can highlight that as a point. I think that's worth noting. Brian?
Thank you, Lane. Sorry, the test fire alarm in the background. Brandon, I was just curious. I understand the balancing act that you were trying to do on this application, but I was just curious as to your reasoning, how you guys came to the determination of 5 p.m. for Sunday through Thursday.
Sure. So the motion was made that for 5 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, or actually the motion was originally made Sunday through Thursday to have no outdoor hours whatsoever, which means nothing at all Sunday through Thursday. But in any point where we are discussing conditions with an application, it's not controlling, but it's a matter of course for us to understand what's logically going to ensue, for us to check with the applicant about what's feasible and whether or not they intend to agree to the conditions that we've proposed or not. So we're not just going to react to what they say, but it helps inform our deliberations. So upon asking them that about all the conditions that we proposed, and I think you note that we had a number of different conditions, the applicants responded that they wanted to be able to hold business lunches outdoors at their establishment, and that they might want to do that during the daytime. And upon the committee discussing that, there was a friendly amendment proposed to the original motion that specified that we would be open in limited circumstances where there's less than 50 people in attendance to having the outdoor premises used until 5 p.m. The amendment was accepted, and it became part of the final motion, which was voted on by the committee.
Thank you.
Barbara?
Thank you, Lenny. I wanted to find out, are there any other tenants in the building at the moment?
So the application, and I want to be clear about this too, this is a commercial loft. So the presumption is that there will be no residents that are inside of this building. But in my reboot, I had to close down the application, and I can pull it up. I believe it stated that there were no residents that were below this location.
No, but I meant any kind of, I mean, how many stories is this building, and are there other entities renting space in it?
Okay, so it's a 7-story building.
Okay.
And it's a commercial loft building. And I understand there are other businesses in the building. I don't know the complete nature of the building, and that wasn't a subject of discussion at the committee meeting.
And just judging by the part of the picture here, I know we have dealt with a couple of similar type requests in the Vinegar Hill area. Have there been other requests for liquor licenses in this building in the last few years?
I certainly don't recall any requests for liquor licenses, but I don't know all the addresses so clearly. I will
that's
say
a bit of a tough question to ask to answer, because we probably would need to do some research. So for that question, Barbara, let us follow up. I don't know if we can answer that off the fly like that.
All right, thanks. Because in the past, there've been heated discussions about other venues in Vinegar Hill, which, as you correctly mentioned, is basically a residential area.
Right.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
Sarah?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brandon, I have a short question about the large the events they're planning, like weddings and corporate parties. Vinegar Hill is a very tight street area. There's not wide streets there. Was there any discussion about parking and over traffic and things like that when you had discussion? Because I don't know where they would park their cars and double parking, et cetera.
Yes, that's a good point, but I do want to clarify one thing that you said, Mr. Scala. They did indicate that they would be doing weddings, but they said they would not be doing parties.
Corporate, I thought you mentioned corporate
Corporate
parties.
events.
Corporate events.
I assume we could probably agree to disagree on what is a party.
It's fine.
But I think to answer your question about the traffic, there was a discussion about that at the committee, and the specific issue was posed because it was a real concern about whether or not there would be all kinds of additional traffic. And the applicant stated that if there was any impact or any issue for the local community with regard to parking, that they would get a valet and make arrangements to accommodate increased parking.
Thank you.
Carrie?
Hi, yeah, it's Kari. I just had a clarifying question about, is there actually anyone that is living directly next to this location? Because I couldn't tell from looking on Google Maps.
So thank you for the question. The application states, and it's very clear that there are residents around, across the street. I believe the application states 19 residents adjacent to the, or residences adjacent to the location. It's fair to say this is a 7-story building that's in the middle of a residential neighborhood that is, but the building itself is used for commercial uses.
Seeing no further questions, I'm going to entertain a motion to accept the committee's recommendation. Ms. Thurston, can I get a second?
Don't we already have a motion
I
on
think
the
we already
floor?
have a motion.
Oh, that's right. We were having a discussion. I apologize. Thank you. I apologize. We were having discussion. Hearing no further discussion. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Please lower your hand. So again, this is for board members. If you're not a board member, there's no need for you to vote. Anyone opposed? Board members, anyone opposed, please raise your hand. Please lower your hand. Anyone abstaining, please raise your hand. Thank you. Please lower your hand. The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to accept the second part of the presentation of the report this evening, 85 Flatbush. Mr. Jordan, I'm looking for a second. Ms. Christopher Daughtry, is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Ryan? All right, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, please lower your hand. Anyone opposed, please raise your hand. Anyone abstaining, please raise your hand. Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you to both committees for that report this evening. Again, we thank you on behalf of the community for the work that you consistently do. Is what's required to be a member of Community Board 2, so thank you. Moving up to agenda item number 8, committees to report. We're going to go with the Economic Development and Employment Committee. I don't think the chair
Good
is
evening.
present this evening, so I'm going to call on the co-chair, Denise Peterson.
Hi, good evening, everyone. To my Community Board 2 colleagues, Happy New Year to you and your families, and to the community at large. Hope everyone have a great and prosperous New Year. There was no meeting of the committee this month. There was a little bit of an issue with the presenter, the request of the presentation. So we will meet on the first Tuesday in February. And we certainly would love to see many of you come and join us in that meeting. And that is my report. Thank you so much.
Thank you. For those who are not aware, the chair of the committee is Bill Flanoy. Next committee to report is Finance and Personnel, Mr. Jordan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Singletary. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. My name is Leonard Jordan. I'm the chair of the Finance and Personnel Committee, and my co-chair is Mr. Brandon Smith. Our last meeting was on December 13th. Our next meeting is scheduled on January 26th, and one of our main focuses is to fill the vacancies in our staff office, which would be our assistant district manager, community associate, and a community assistant, which is part-time. We've been still working with the Borough Hall and the OMB and trying to get this posting up. Hopefully by the time we meet the next time, I'll have news for you as far as the posting that is up, and hopefully we'll move forward from there as far as interviews, and we'll let you know as we proceed step by step. That's about it, Mr. Singletary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Next committee to report, Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'm Barbara Zoller-Gringer, the co-chair of the committee, along with Andrew Lastawecki. First, I want to thank all of the members of the Parks Committee. I see we have a really big turnout tonight, so thank you for being here. I want to thank Taya. I was on the website the other day, and I see there have been some changes, so thank you for that. Last month, I had 2 meetings to report about from the Parks Committee. This month, we haven't had a meeting. So let me first say our next meeting is Monday, February 13th. Not the usual day of the month, so please mark your calendars accordingly. And I just want to give a shout out to our friends and neighbors at the Farragut houses who have been through Green Thumb and the Parks Department have had their community garden revamped with an emphasis on growing food and I believe sustainability. And so kudos to them on that. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next committee to report, Transportation and Public Safety. Is Sid not on the meeting?
No, and
Oh,
Esther
maybe-
had to jump.
Maybe he's in some other country. Is Esther here?
She had to jump at 7.
Okay, great. So must be no report. Next committee to present, Youth Education and Cultural Affairs.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being patient and waiting for this last report. Although our committee did not meet in December, we were very busy. Several of our members attended the civic engagement, professional development or workshop about youth engagement It was very exciting. We heard from some young people, and we're going to be bringing some ideas and plans to our committee for further discussion, development, leading to recruitment of young people who certainly have a lot to say about the state of affairs in their communities and their city. We are participating with others on the board on a cultural visit to the new cultural space on Ashland Place, which is being developed by the Brooklyn Public Library, Makata and BAM, I believe, and we'll be reporting more on these developments to bring additional cultural resources to our community. And last, I do want to report that the new school in Albee Square is, we anticipate it's due to open September of 23, but the DOE has not yet established its usage yet. I attended a CEC 13 meeting, and there was discussion about temporarily housing a new high school in conjunction with Pratt Institute for a few years. But it's my understanding that that plan is not yet voted on as such. So we will be watching that development closely. And we are meeting on Wednesday, January 25th, which is the fourth Wednesday, our typical time, and we will be hearing from Pratt Institute on their classes and workshops for young people after school and on the weekends. So they've been very active in our communities with our young people. So it will be exciting to hear about their programs. So thank you, and always more to come. Good evening.
Thank you, Betty. Before I move to the next item on our agenda, which is other board business, I want to welcome everyone to a new segment that we're launching for 2023, which is entitled, Where is Councilmember Lincoln Restler? And so as we look at Lincoln navigate through Brooklyn, we're going to call on Councilmember Lincoln Restler for an update.
Lenny, Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to everybody on CB2. It is always great to be with you guys. I am escaping out of the subway station. We've got a Mitchell Lama in Williamsburg in Community Board 1 where they're trying to do an 80% rent increase. So we were doing a meeting tonight with tenants, organizing them and pushing back on that. And then a precinct council meeting, and whatever. It's neither here nor there. Just happy to be with you all. Some very quick updates. I'll just build on what Betty was sharing a moment ago on this design, the design school with high school that they're thinking about as a temporary use for the space at Albee Square Mall. That had been originally planned as an elementary school, but many of our adjacent elementary schools are notably under capacity, under enrolled, and so adding an additional elementary school to the mix at this time didn't make a lot of sense. This proposal to keep the high school there would be only for 2 years because the high school, would grow significantly beyond the capacity of this small school in that time. This school was one of the central promises of the downtown Brooklyn rezoning for our community, as I'm sure John Dew will remind us all. And while it is deeply frustrating to me that it's taken 17 years, I'm pleased that we're adding this full capacity in our community. What I really hope is that we can, think about moving things around to expand our middle school capacity in District 13, where we have a lack of high quality options for families. And so that's something I made clear to the District 13 superintendent and CC leadership and the folks at DOE. So that's a big priority. The Willoughby Square Park is finally fully moving forward. And thanks in no small part to the great leadership of CB2, is going to open in about a year with a new dog run, separate and apart from where the Underground Railroad was located. So that's a big win, and those are two of the promises and pillars, of the downtown Brooklyn rezoning that were made to our community that we're finally seeing traction on. A couple other things I wanted to share. We are doing a neighborhood town hall for all things Boerum Hill on Monday, January 23rd. So if you're interested in joining us, we'll have folks from the Smith Street bid. You can meet your new NCO officers. We'll have folks from relevant city agencies like parks and and sanitation and the like, all on to answer your questions and address any concerns that you may have in the neighborhood, and to get a more comprehensive update of the work that we've been doing in Borum Hill. We're fortunate to have the Borum Hill Association co-sponsoring that with us, but that should be a good neighborhood forum. We're doing these neighborhood town halls in every neighborhood across our district, and we're really excited to be focusing on Borum Hill. As it relates to Borum Hill, we did a big alternate side parking blitz this week with the NYPD 84th Precinct and the Department of Sanitation. On Monday morning, we issued 65 summons. I think we matched that number on Tuesday morning. I was out with some of the officers and sanitation professionals, and we just have too many people that are consistently not moving during ASP, which prevents our streets from being cleaned, which contributes to rat issues, which is a serious ongoing issue. And from my vantage point, I think we have a lot of drivers who think that it's cheaper to just take the ticket, the $65, than it is to pay for a parking spot. And that's unacceptable. So I want you to know we're actively looking at legislation to have an escalatory fine structure. So the second ticket, the third ticket, the fourth ticket in a month, you'd have to pay more. And there's some limitations from state law. So it's not going to be as aggressive and ambitious as I would like, but it will be, I hope, a more effective model everyone gets an ASP ticket every so often, and that's, you forget about it, whatever it may be. But if it's happening 3 or 4 times in a month, there should be consequences. So that's what we're looking at legislatively. The top issue that I'm at, one more thing in Brooklyn Heights, I just wanted everyone to know where things are really moving forward in Cadman Plaza. There was some commitment from the de Blasio administration, Councilmember Levin, to renovate the oval on the northern part of the park. That's a $6 million project. It is finally moving forward. The oval is going to be closed off while that work continues, but we're really pleased that we'll finally have access to water over there and some major renovations of the pathways and all of that space. In addition, we put funding in last year's budget to replace that turf in Cadman Plaza, which has been in terrible shape. And that work is also getting done this year. So we're going to finally see that. Cadman is one of the best used public spaces in our district. So I really want to, we're committed to seeing it fixed up and improved for our community. There's also an RFP out for a small cafe on the kind of Clark Street side of Cadman that is out right now. So we'll see what kind of response we get. The last thing I just wanted to share relates to the BQE, which I imagine is top of mind for a lot of folks on this call. We are, today, the elected officials for the area have been working closely together. Assemblymember Simon, Senator Gounardes, Congressman Goldman, Congresswoman Velázquez. Today, with Senator Kavanaugh, who used to represent our community, we released a statement, just expressing extraordinary disappointment with the Department of Transportation, who told us on Friday that they are unable to implement the weight and motion sensors that we have passed state legislation to create, and there are indefinite delays. It's really pretty extraordinary incompetence, in my opinion. This was legislation that the DOT drafted, the DOT requested. It was precisely to their request and requirements that this was supposed to happen, and they've demonstrated they're unable to do it. It is not at all confidence inspiring for the construction or renovation or replacement of the triple cantilever that is underway. So it's not the last you're going to hear on this one. We're going to keep pushing to try and get the DOT to get its act together, but I am very disappointed on that. So I apologize. I tried to cover just the things that were top of mind, but could talk to CB2 all night long, but I know you got a long agenda. So I'm sorry for going on as long as I did, Chair Singletary, but it's truly a pleasure to always be with y'all.
Not a problem, council member. Are you okay if three board members have questions?
Of course.
Sure. So do any three board members have any questions for council member Restler? Lincoln, have a good evening. Get home safe. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Lenny. Have a great night, everybody. Be well.
Take care. Next item on the agenda is other board business. Do board members have any items that they want to bring before this evening that have not been discussed on the agenda? If so, if you please raise your hand. Barbara?
Just very quickly, I thought we were gonna, the executive committee was gonna be sworn in tonight, but I guess that's not happening.
At this stage of the agenda, it's not.
Okay. Thanks.
Ms. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Singletary. I just wanted to make a quick mention of an issue. Tomorrow, there will be a community meeting concerning bus route changes or proposed changes, as they're using the word proposed. I hope it's proposed and not a done deal already. And I am speaking from the Clinton Hill section where I live. And that change will impact the Gates Avenue bus, the B52, and it will impact the B38 bus, which runs on Lafayette Avenue and runs down DeKalb Avenue. I encourage anyone who is interested or who feel like they would be adversely impacted by such a change, that they join the meeting tomorrow and express the disagreement with those proposed changes. And I will be there, and I hope that I have the opportunity to speak, because I do have a few things to say on behalf of my position as president of the board at 309 Lafayette Avenue. And I know that Nicole McKnight is on as being on the board of directors at 21 St. James Place, and the impact that it will have those who live at 333 Lafayette Avenue. We are sister buildings, and I'm sure the other sections on this end will have problems with that, but I know out of thousands of people who live in these three high-rise Mitchell-Lama cooperatives that we get the support to go against any of those proposed changes, as I think it would be a great disadvantage to our seniors in particular. Join in and let your voices be heard. And I just wanted to say that, and I thank you, Mr. Singletary.
Thank you, Denise. Appreciate that update. Seeing no other hands from community board members, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is community forum, in which case this is where non-board members get a chance to have a platform. And I'm going to call first on, I can't make out the name, but it's a number that starts with a 212 area code. I have no idea who that is. So if you are present and live in the district and you'd like to share something, I ask that you come off mute and then introduce who you are and let us know what your topic is.
Hello, my name is Jill McManus. Can you hear me?
Barely, but yes.
I'll speak loudly. My name is Jill McManus, and I'm from a group called New Yorkers for Wired Tech. And my concern is the cell towers and kiosks, the 5G link kiosks that are being placed around the city, some 4,000 of them. And I just want to say briefly, I hope you are all doing some research and looking deeply into this, because once these towers are installed, it's practically impossible to get rid of them. They are emanating radiation invisibly, which is going to affect children, pregnant women, elderly, your pets, everyone around, and they are seeking your cell phone target. They are also offering Wi-Fi hotspots. So the FCC guidelines are supposed to keep us safe, but in fact they don't. They're under question in the DC District Court of Appeals. They have been challenged because they have not renewed and re-examined their guidelines since 1996. Since then, there have been billions of cell phones and towers and gadgets and the Internet of Things, and all of this is developed, and nobody has considered all the aggregate amounts of radiation and increased levels of technology that we are exposed to daily in the streets, in our homes, and children in the schools. So these children are sitting 8 hours a day surrounded by Wi-Fi. They're taking their laptops and putting them over their ovaries or their balls during their homework hours, and they are not thinking to the future. This radiation will kill sperm. It will damage organs. The effects are quite well studied by thousands of peer-reviewed studies, and in fact, at even levels of power and emissions well below the guidelines from the FCC, which are the most lenient ones in the world. So if you compare Russia or China or many European countries, they have way lower levels that are allowed. And in fact, if you look at Europe, many of them are closing, forbidding 5G in the schools, and they're not selling phones to children under a certain age, and they are rethinking the whole thing. So before you just take it lightly as how convenient to have more places I can charge my cell phone, think to the long term, think to the people who are passing by, who are helpless and vulnerable to being exposed night and day. And if you have any questions, I'd be very willing to answer them. Are you aware that you have 4 towers in your area, and 2 have already passed by the deadline for comment, but the deadline for comment for the 8 Fulton Street one and the 63 Flushing Avenue, Building 23, between 5th and 6th Streets, these have a deadline of next Monday to reply or comment to the Office of Technology and Innovation, OTI.
Thank you, Jill, for that update. I'm
That's it.
going to ask if you could wrap up so we can move on to the other members in the community. I would greatly appreciate it, but thank you for that update. And I think we did pay close attention to some of the valuable information you put in the chat throughout the meeting. So thank you again for your support and making us aware of the potential harm that the towers may bring within respective communities.
Thank you so much.
Next, I'm going to call on John Dew. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Chair Singletary and Community Board 2. I have a couple of items I want to mention. First of all, I want to speak on behalf of the Myrtle Avenue Business Improvement District. We got our first weed shop, ganja, whatever you want to call it. It is clearly not a legal shop because there's only one legal shop opened and certified in the city of New York, and that's in Manhattan. So it's there. We are certainly not looking to be punitive, but we do plan to meet with the 88th precinct and just to coordinate with the police what they think should happen in terms of safety and security of having a ganja shop on the avenue. So if there's any specific information, I will certainly get back to the community board. Secondly, I have to comment on Council Member Restler's displeasure with the DOT progress on the cantilever. Community Board 2 should know that the state was responsible for the cantilever 20 some odd years ago. When it was 50 years old, they came to Community Board 2.
Mr. Dew?
John, I think you're freezing up. It might be helpful if you take your video off. All right, so let me move on. I'm going to call on to Carolyn McIntyre.
City of New York.
Should I start or, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lenny and community board members. I'm Carolyn McIntyre, resident of Brooklyn Heights. Some of you know me from the, public libraries, fight to save public libraries. I'm just going to echo the comment about the 5G concerns. I understand there's going to be one erected on Pierpont near Clinton. And this is a report from Odette Wilkins from President General Council of Wired Broadband. Community Board 8 sent us the city a message that they do not want these towers. They passed a resolution on December 14th disapproving the towers and applying a moratorium on the planning and construction of Link 5G towers in their district. Community Board 8 was slated and to have an additional 18 towers installed, 15 in historic districts. The resolution cited many reasons, which include long-term health impacts on public health or the environment, including children, seniors, and people with medical devices. The online petition by an Historic Preservation Society and CB8 garnered 1,800 signatures opposing the towers. Going further, National Toxicology Program commissioned by the Federal Food and Drug Administration to conduct a $30 million study in 2018 found clear evidence of cancer. A study in 2000 commissioned by one of the major telecom carriers found links to cancer, leukemia, neurological disorders, cognitive impairment, with special caution for children. So if there's one that's going up on Pierpont and Monroe, that is very near some of the schools in our area. So I would request that you all look into this and really examine the studies and the health impact, because obviously we're going to have a lot of money to tell us that it's safe. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll definitely take their comments and like I said, the other information that's been shared in the chat, and we'll try to do our best to stay abreast of how that transpires and share the concerns of the community. Thank you. Next, I'm going to call on Odette Wilkins.
Hello, and thank you very much. Yes, I'm Odette Wilkins, and I'm President and General Counsel of Wired Broadband. And I'm also a technology attorney. I've been a technology attorney for over 20 years, having represented many multinational corporations in finance, entertainment, and technology. And I can tell you that from what I have studied on 5G, you don't want that outside your window, and you don't want to be anywhere near it. Your community board is slated to have an additional 2 of these cell towers. You have really only until Friday to tell the OTI that you want an extension of time in order to fully consider the ramifications of this or to disapprove. Now, CB8 came out with a complete moratorium. It was unanimous in the Transportation Committee and an overwhelming majority in the full board. So I just want to indicate that one in your district is going to go to 8 Old Fulton Street. Now, that's a residential area, and it's in front of a renovated landmark building built in 1861, I believe it is, with a very narrow sidewalk. And 633 Flushing Avenue is a commercial area, but that also has a very narrow sidewalk. So that's going to be very problematic because these are going to be very close to those buildings. And there isn't a fall zone because these towers have been known to collapse. So what's going to happen if they're that close to the buildings? They're going to crash into the windows. They can injure people in the buildings and also injure people on the sidewalk. Now, 5G is known in the industry as an energy hog because it requires a tremendous amount of energy consumption. So we have a law in New York State about climate change and about improving the environment and having less of a carbon footprint. 5G has a huge carbon footprint, and cell towers are known to catch on fire. Now, when the fire department comes, they can't just turn on the hose because they're going to get electrocuted. You have to wait for the companies to turn off all of their electrical equipment before they can actually put out the fire. So these are electrical installations. And so this is very concerning. Now, in the resolution for the moratorium that CB8 in Manhattan put forth, they said that they did not want this near renowned architecture and iconic streetscapes. There's going to be illuminated advertising on these towers that don't comply with certain historic preservation rules. There are impacts on sidewalk clearances, and also they are known to attract rats because it's very warm on the inside. And then, of course, the long-term health effects. And those are very real. And there's also an elderly woman who lives in Brooklyn.
Ms. Wilkins, I'm going to ask if you could kindly wrap it up a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. An elderly woman who lives in Brooklyn recently became ill when a Link 5G cell tower was installed just a few blocks away from where she lives. She's lost 30 pounds and she's quite ill. So, and just one other thing, that the telecom industry actually characterizes wireless radiation as a pollutant in their device protection plans, and they disclaim any injuries arising from wireless radiation. So I would commend you to really respond back to OTI, at least ask for an extension of time and or a disapproval until you are able to fully consider the ramifications of these dangerous instrumentalities. Thank you.
Have a great evening. Thank you for that. Ms. Einhorn?
Hey, Lenny, I'm just a little bit concerned about the number of speakers about the tower. And I'm wondering, I'm concerned that we're currently spreading disinformation.
So let me stop you. Let me stop you.
Yeah.
So this is for a community forum. I'm not going to debate this. I'm giving the individuals who've been on this meeting since 6 o'clock a chance to have a platform, because that's what this part of the meeting allows for. We're not making an action. We're hearing information.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Duke, you had your hand up?
Yes, I was commenting on the cantilever, and my final comment is that because the community board had some recommendations over 2 decades ago that were not followed, the cantilever is going to be impossible for downtown Brooklyn. My question for DOT, and I will put this for DOT to respond to when they meet with the committee, is what happens with the overweight trucks? Even if you put a process in place, what happens when that truck is identified as overweight? This has to happen before the exit. We already have issues downtown Brooklyn with the overweight trucks that are currently being redirected from the cantilever. So this is a major issue that Community Board 2 frankly needs to be very prepared for, because the solution has escaped the city of New York for over 2 decades. My final issue is on affordable housing, and I'm hearing we're ready to revisit Atlantic Avenue. The homeless problem in New York City is at least a partial direct result of city housing policy, and none of the housing that is built, for example, in downtown Brooklyn, accommodated the old residents of downtown Brooklyn, community of low income color. None of those residents of downtown Brooklyn 20 years ago are there today. They've been totally displaced. If this was Ukraine, we would say it was a bomb. But in downtown Brooklyn, it was done via rezoning. The results are exactly the same. Folks are displaced. We have the highest homeless population ever in the city of New York. There is no plan to address that. Every time you do a rezoning, you displace the community. So my recommendation is that Community Board 2 ask all of the elected officials to change the word affordable housing, remove them from any applications, and replace them with community affordable housing, so that we can begin to truly accept that we have to be responsible for the entire community, not just the folk who are well-heeled and rich that are determining the path of the city of New York as we speak. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm seeing no other hands from the community. Before I get to the next item on the agenda, let me just make this point. When we have our general body meetings, there's a lot of information, a lot of topics. We have a lot of speakers, a lot of dignitaries. So it gives us a chance to take in a lot of information. And so when we get to the section for community forum, this is where I'd like to have members who are not board members have a chance to give their thoughts to, because they sit through a long meeting. And so while there's nothing wrong with receiving the information, I don't want anyone to think that we're having a mini committee meeting or a mini meeting. It is always welcome for the community to give input and communicate. And so a lot of times our meetings go, 3 hours. However, that's not the desired plan, or as I'm hoping that we move in that direction from a committee perspective, because the committee doesn't always have as much information that's being communicated, while some of the issues may require individuals to be passionate about an issue, and you do want to make sure that you hear all from the committee. So with that, I just wanted to put that little caveat there. The community forum is really for just that, the community. And so before I go to the next item on the agenda, Emily, I see you have your hand up.
May I just make a comment about the community forum before we move away?
Can we do it offline? Or you'd rather do it now?
I feel comfortable doing it now, and I don't
Okay,
want
go
to.
ahead.
Like there's a, I appreciate the purpose and think that the community forum is very important, but I still think we can have a community forum that requires people to cite reputable sources when they're talking, because it is not meant to be a discussion, and because it is not something that is about business. It is too easy for people to say things that are taken away as fact. And so while, again, I appreciate the purpose, I think for it to have teeth in me, it would just be nice when people with passion, you should be willing to also have facts and cite reputable sources and not have what felt like circular references. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. I appreciate all the comments and the feedback. And so I'm going to expeditiously move to into item number 11, which is adjourn. Please get home. God bless you. Good night. I don't need a motion. Good night. Thank you, everyone. Get home safe.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.